Great. I'd like to call to order the Marin Municipal Water District Finance and Administration Committee meeting. May I please have a roll call?
Good morning. Director Smith.
Here.
Oh, Chair Smith. Director Sampson.
Here.
And Vice President Schmidt.
Here.
And Director Russell.
Here.
And I'd like to have a motion to approve the adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Director Russell.
Come on. Yes.
Director Sampson.
Yes.
Vice President Schmidt.
Yes.
And Chair Smith.
Aye. Great. And then any public comment on items not on the agenda? There
are none.
Terrific. So just a quick note that Crystal Yasmin is sitting in as acting general manager while Ben is on vacation. And then I think I'll hand it off to the beginning. First item on the agenda is the approve the minutes from the Finance Administration Committee meeting on March 28th. May I have a motion to approve, please?
Before you approve the minutes, I just want to make a slight change to reflect that Director Russell actually attended the meeting of the last FAC meeting right after the adoption of the minutes. So I'd like to just make that change on.
Not there for the roll call or the agenda.
That is
approval,
correct.
But after that, okay.
If that's okay.
Yep. So I'll motion that we approve the minutes from the meeting of March 28th with that amendment.
Second.
Roll call.
Thank you. Director Russell.
Aye.
Director Sampson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Schmidt.
Aye.
And Chair Smith.
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. Now we'll move on to the first item on the agenda, which is our insurance update.
Yes, thank you, Chair Smith. And today we have with us Matt McManus from Alliant, and he's going to give us a brief overview today about the district's insurance portfolio and the process we're going through right now to hopefully get a renewal later this summer. So this is an informational item to give background and context on the insurance market, and we'll be bringing a more specific item to your board in June for approval.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Brett. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone. My name is Matt McManus. I am the Senior Vice President at Alliant Insurance Services. All I do is work with public entities here in California and across the United States. With your permission, I'm going to share my screen and begin a brief presentation. Hopefully everyone can see my presentation now. Thank you. So first and foremost, I just want to thank you for allowing me for this brief opportunity to present to you an ever-changing insurance marketplace and really what's going on with trends and industry issues. Okay, I'll have a time for questions at the end, and I'll try to keep this pretty brief. The agenda for my presentation is obviously the market overview, but financial performance, underwriting trends, and loss trends and market disruptors. Financial performance. So this is coming, this quote here, I don't have to read it to you, but it's coming out of the American Property and Casualty Insurance Association. So there's a lot of pressures, as you can see right here, all of these, right? But you know, the insurance companies, their balance sheets are still strong. So really what this slide is depicting is, although they are paying out a lot of claims, insurance is still a good buy. It's still a good risk transfer. But as you can see, there are plenty of market pressures that, you know, we are faced with, as well as the insurance companies are faced with today. I do want to just go back here and just so you can see this, and then I'll have the images slide in. But This is the P&C, not just one insurance company, but the entire property and casualty insurance industry combined ratio. So what the combined ratio is, it's a metric to depict the profitability and financial health of a carrier, or in this case, the P&C industry, the property and casualty industry. Okay. So how do you come up with the ratio? It's the incurred losses plus their expenses divided by the premiums earned. Okay. If it's less than 100, it means the carriers are earning more premium than claims paid, which means they're making money, and vice versa. Over 100 means that they're not making any profit. So as you can see here, since 2016, it's either over 100 where they were not making money, or just at 99 making a sliver profit. I'm going to give you some images here that provides some dialogue. So moreover, over the last 5-6 years, it hasn't been great as far as profitability for these insurance companies. And why is that? We'll get into that. Underwriting trends. Going to start with property. So what this is showing is property renewals on a rolling quarter, starting August 21, which was still a pretty, tough market, firm market. But we are truly in one of the hardest markets in a generation. As you can see, it has gone up quite a bit from 21 to January 23, but I will say, since January 23, it has increased like this. And the reason it is, it's really the perfect storm. We have inflation of labor and material costs, rising reinsurance costs, reduction in carrier capacity, and there isn't new capacity, property carrier capacity that's coming in, which all of that combined is making this one of the toughest property markets in a generation. And that's a fact. That's a serious statement. The next is the casualty renewal pricing trends. As you can see, it's not as bad as property. It is pretty level. Started off in August of 21, double digits. Now we're kind of at high single digits, but I will say on some accounts, we're still at low double digits. Loss trends. So this is just a depiction of recent catastrophic losses. So catastrophic weather events have played a major role in shaping the insurance marketplace. A couple notes here I'll read to you. A major hurricane has made U.S. landfall 5 out of the last 6 years. In 2022, we saw 14 named wind events, including hurricanes Ian and Nicole. Ian is currently valued at probably about $65 to $70 billion, which is going to be the largest ever insured event in nominal dollars. In addition to hurricanes, and there's wildfires engulfing thousands of acres. We have unprecedented winter storms, which have basically correlated to resulting in freezing claims. As you remember, in Texas and Colorado, we've had a ton of claims. And obviously Midwest flooding, which is a good transition to the next slide. What this slide shows is just in 22, and again, just in US, a separate $1 billion losses, weather events that have occurred just in 2022. A lot has occurred flooding in the Midwest. So 18 separate $1 billion losses in 2022. In 2021, we had 20 separate $1 billion losses. The annual average for the last 5 years is 16.2 separate $1 billion losses specific to the US. And obviously, wildfire. We all know, living here in California, we've seen, all the drastic and events that have occurred over the last 5 years. But it's no longer it's a big deal. It's just like earthquake. It's just like flood. All the carriers out there are modeling specific for wildfire, and this is what they're doing to price your insurance for property. So this shows U.S. Inflation adjusted insured cat losses, and this is just cat losses, weather events. Nearly a 700% since the 1980s. And over again, since 17, it's been pretty drastic. Next up is, we're not just talking about rates and insurance profitability, it's construction costs. And as you know, they're up. So when we're talking to insurance companies on your property renewals, the first topic is, your schedule of values, which depicts your locations, address, your construction type, and what you're reporting as that value for that location. The carriers are digging in significantly on your schedule of values to make sure you're reporting proper replacement costs, because they want to make sure they're receiving the proper premium for what they will pay out at the time of loss. And as you can see, this is the increases over, since January, 8.4, 11, and 11%. So this makes up the total cost of your property insurance. It's if your TIV is up, your trend, and then your rate is up, your total cost is going to be up. If your trend is up and your rate is flat, your total cost is still going to be up. A very important topic in the industry. So switching over to casualty, liability, major disruptors. Auto liability, there's just been, the cost of vehicles and technologies, that's up. So claims are up just because of that, but also there's a significant amount of fatality trends in the industry. Workers' compensation, aging workforce, out-of-state exposure, and I would say wage inflation obviously are the big kickers here. General liability and excess liability, punitive damage awards, excessive force, aging infrastructure. I'd say that those are the big items there for those lines. Increasing impact of the liability market. Every one of these is basically changing the liability market and why premium is up. Reduced capacity. There's not, if you look back 10 years ago, the amount of carriers that would write in the primary 5 million or would write a $10 million first above your SIR, it's depleted. There's only about 5 or 6 companies that will entertain that first 5 million. And that 5x of 5 is even tougher. There's a lot of companies that will write above a 10 million stretch, but when you have reduced capacity that will write in those layers, it basically is pushing up the price. Inflation is a big topic here. Hyper-social inflation, which I'll talk about in the next slide. Law enforcement is obviously driving up the liability market, but all of this impacts why there's increases in prices. Upward trend in liability claims. As you can see, this depicts an 11% growth over a decade. And why is it growing? There's just more accidents and bigger claims, more payouts. Social inflation, I'm sure everyone has heard this buzzword, but social inflation describes basically the carrier's claims costs that are increasing above the general economic cost. And this is really due to large litigation costs that are brought by plaintiffs seeking large monetary relief for the injuries, as well as there's also litigation financing, which has definitely disrupted the marketplace as well. This is the first time, 2021 was the first time that actually government made the top 10 of top 100 verdicts. Pretty amazing. And again, reasons why insurance claim costs are on the rise for liability. Lastly, we'll talk about cyber liability. I have one slide for you. cyber liability has been a big topic over the last few years. We've seen increases, averaging 40 to 100 to even 400%. If there is a ray of sunshine in the insurance industry, cyber liability has definitely trended off and is flattening off. And we're not seeing those big of increases. We're actually kind of seeing closer to 10 to 15% for cyber liability. And the big reason why cyber liability is such a big important topic is because of ransomware claims. In 2018, it averaged an estimated global damage of 8 billion. In 19, it was 11.5 billion. In 2021, it was 20 billion. And forecasted for 24, we're looking at 42 billion. And really what we're working with our clients and the district is to make sure that you have the right standards across the marketplace. All of the cyber carriers in the market want to make sure that you are working or have these type of standards in order to write your insurance. Thank you for your time. I'm going to leave it with that and ask you for any questions.
Nope, we're all feeling the same pain. So thank you for helping explain why this is happening. Matt, comment?
If I just have a comment and then maybe a follow-up in terms of potential direction. So Matt, thanks for that presentation. One of the things we're looking at, obviously with a pretty focused lens is the wildfire risk we face on our watershed specific, to the loss of being able to produce what we do. And I appreciate that insurance companies are starting to model wildfire. But for us, I think what's helpful is as your firm and others start working with the cat risk modelers, we need to understand what we can do that you guys will realize is a value. So right now we have a lot of work that we're doing, but no one's qualifying it or quantifying it to say, yes, this will reduce your risk. And we keep throwing millions of dollars in hopes that, we think this will reduce it. But what we really need is to understand where the insurance companies, specifically the cat risk modelers, are identifying as, yes, this will reduce, and we agree with that. And so we will continue to insure your property for fire. So any help or direction with that or any insight on that would be appreciated.
Yeah, I think that's a great topic. And that's something I think maybe with you and Brett, maybe we can work together with a separate meeting. I am happy to say that your current property program will not be excluding wildfire. There are carriers out there that outright just exclude it. But I agree. Let's maybe have a separate meeting and go over the modeling and maybe what we can do to magnify why the district is a better risk than most, and if we can help mitigate anything, what we can do, what the carriers want to see. Thank you, sir.
I guess I would just, that's a great point, Matt. Thank you for bringing that up. And I think that across all of our insured elements of our district, it would be it'd be very helpful for, I think, the board and others to know what any other areas where we can take action and make investments that will reduce our risk as well as the cost of insurance. So I don't know if that's just a part of a regular review that we do with you, but I would like to see us investigate those other elements, any other elements that we can, because we are making investments into our future right now. We're doing a lot of planning in that area, and knowing that there could be a reduction in risk that could affect service, but let alone also our cost of service, is something that I'd like to know about.
Well noted, Monty. Thank you.
Larry, any comments? No, Brett, I think this is a great framework for us to begin the conversation around risk and all the different kinds of risk that we face. And so, the presentation highlights where we have vulnerability, and then I think our response to these potential disasters, natural or otherwise, will be something I'd love to follow up on. So, and I don't know exactly how we do it, but it would be good. Like, if something happens, what do we do? What's the protocol in place for seismic events, for major single points of failure, for fire, et cetera? And so that we as a board are prepared and understand, that we have a response in addition to having insurance coverage. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I don't see any public comments.
Moving on to item number 2 would be a monthly financial update. Brett, take it away. Before you start, I'll just say that it's been a pleasure working with you and Shelley over the last few months, and I appreciate your partnership and openness and terrific work.
Thank you, Chair Smith. And so this next item here is our monthly financial update. I'm going to go relatively quickly through this. There's not a lot of change from the last 2 months, but I'm happy to answer any questions. This is our financial snapshot as of the end of March. And so that gives us 9 months out of 12, or 75% of the fiscal year. As you can see on the chart here, we're continuing to trend in the same directions in terms of total revenue, a little behind where we want to be on water sales. Other revenues coming in essentially as expected. So lagging the trend there, expecting to be in the 70s, we're in the high 60s across the board. But that has been the general trend we've seen over the last number of months here. Water sales, as I've shown a few times, is really the driving force keeping us behind our revenue targets, and we've had much discussion on that. I would just kind of point the board's attention here towards the bottom. Our expected actuals as of this point, if we added up all of our monthly budgets, we're actually at 83% of actuals. So we're about 17% behind in terms of our variable water sales. So you can see month by month we've been hovering in the 70s and 80s. What I would point out, and I'll show you in the next slide as well, the last 2 months, which is February and March, have been exceptionally low. And I would just remind the board that we're on a 2-month lag here for our billing. And so when we're looking at March and February data, we're really looking back at December and January and early February consumption. And so it's understandable to note that we would probably be selling less water during those months when we had exceptional rains here in the district. But you'll see here that these have continued to kind of keep the revenue trends down. Service charges right around 100% of expected actuals. So we're good there in our fixed fees. But again, taken in total here, we're about 17% behind our revenue budget in terms of variable water sales. Oops, let me go back one. So this kind of plots the water sales throughout the year, and we started looking at this closer last year. As you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, the green being the actuals and the blue being the budget. We diverged pretty quickly last year in the early fall as we were striving to conserve before the rains came, and so that was really the big drop in revenue that ended up being a $12 million loss by the end of the year. On the right-hand side over here, we've been trending much closer this year to our budget. And again, a reminder, our budget was set 2 years ago, so that did not account for the recent trends. We're adjusting that in our forward look. The good news on this slide would be that we're only down $8 million on the trend this year, which is better than it was last year. Again, the green actuals are trending closer to the blue, and we're not seeing that huge gap. So we've been in a better spot overall, but still not up to the prior budget. And then this slide here evens things out in the sense it takes away the dollars. So it's just, consumption. This actually shows acre feet as of March. And again, 2-month lag. So we're really looking at January and February here. You can see that we 14,740 acre feet as of March this year, increase compared to last year, which we'd expect as we've lifted our conservation efforts, but still well below any prior year through March. And in fact, if you look even farther back, there's really no comparison to the last 2 years in terms of total consumption through March. And then it doesn't show it well in this attachment, but in this summary, but in the attachments that are included in the board packet today, you can look at the month by month trend in terms of overall CCF. And when you look there, the third quarter, for finance purposes, so January, February, March, is actually 13% below our longer term average. And it's actually the lowest ever demand we've had at the district for March. So we've fallen a little bit behind last year's pace, but again, I think that just reflects the late rains and the consistent rains we got through January and February. Long way of saying is we have 3 months left in the fiscal year. And so we're getting closer and closer to our projections, and I'll see those in the final slide. But before I go to the projections for revenues, expenses have continued to trend consistently over the last few months. Most of our expenses are pretty predictable. And so we're expecting to see everything right around there in the 70 to 75% range. Personnel services, again, have been the laggard so far, as we did have a slow hiring and recruitment process intentionally for the first half of this year. Capital projects are starting to catch up in terms of where we expect to see on a linear basis as the encumbrances have started to even themselves out, and we've got some more expenses coming through. So 69 and 70% on capital, again, is where we'd expect to be at this time of the year. So we put that together, and then this is kind of the projection slide where we think we'll end the year. And just to kind of remind the board and the public, we're in this range between a 20% and a 15% expected reduction in water sales. So we have two columns up there, both showing the scenarios of revenues and expenses and resulting fund balance that we may expect to see. So we're hoping to be obviously closer to the 15%, the far right-hand column in terms of revenue loss, which would only be a $9 million loss on the year on the right-hand side here. We are still keeping the scenario of a 20% loss in our minds, as we still may end up there. And that's what I was starting to allude to earlier, is the last 3 months of the year will really complete the picture here on whether we're closer to that 15% range or the 20% range. Personnel services, as I talked about, we are expecting to see a savings there compared to budget due to vacancies. And we've zeroed out the unexpected expenditures for water purchases and Sulu-Hulu pumping, as we are now essentially full in our reservoirs. And so those are no longer a drag on the financial picture, which is good news. On the flip side, we are, as I mentioned last month, seeing additional paving costs still hitting the budget. We haven't had an update on that this month, but we will as we start to get into the summer here on what that's going to be in terms of end of the year cash flow. If you read the columns going down, water losses somewhere between 9 and 12 million this year, additional expenses netting out to about a $2 to $3 million savings. And so as that kind of rolls through, if we use CMF again to pay debt service this year, we should end the unrestricted operating reserve very close to where we started the year, in that $27 million range, depending on where we end the year in terms of overall revenue sales. So in summary, the fiscal challenges that we've had the last 2 years have continued. The variable water sales, again, being the primary driver there. And then recently, we're starting to see the pavement restoration requirements following our pipeline projects. That has been a little bit of a drag on the expense budget. The rainfall has definitely reduced our expected use of reserves, both from savings on having to purchase additional water as well as any reservoir pumping. We did take actions throughout the year and last year to reduce our expenses in the short term. And we are looking for longer term balancing options on both sides of the ledger, as we've talked many times, in terms of the proposed rate increase, as well as making sure we're expending our resources wisely on the expense side. So that summarizes where we're at today. We should have more information as we get into the summer months here, but I'm happy to take any questions on this month's financial update.
Great. Matt, you're good? Monty or Larry, any comments?
All good.
I'm good.
Okay. Brett, thank you for the presentation. I think it's important to note that the shortfalls that we're experiencing right now reflect a different financial structure than we're proposing for the new rate structure, that we now will have the ability to handle and plan for drought when and if it happens, so that we won't have that shortfall that we just had, which is to the tune of $1 million a month. And there are other incentives in there that I think going forward, both to help people that are in the lowest income brackets but overall, I think we're trying to make sure that we don't get in this rut again and use up our reserves like we have. And just as a side note, I think it'd be great to look at auxiliary revenue opportunities for us. And I know, Brett, you and I talked about that, whether it's optimizing cell phone tower or other leasing that we have, which, Molly, you've done, I think, quite well. And I think we may have other opportunities, whether it's maximizing and optimizing our real estate holdings and permits and parking fees, et cetera. All of those little things can add up if we're thoughtful about it and scrappy and find a way to continue to be conservative in how we run it. I was particularly motivated by the Central Marin Sanitary District, who finds $1 everywhere that they possibly can. And so, there's some good lessons to be learned, but thank you for your good hard work. And I think we'll open it up to public comment.
There is none.
Great.
Actually, I do have one public comment. Mr. Roy Wolford. I just want to let Mr. Wolford and everyone know that they have 3 minutes to provide their comment. So let me unmute Mr. Wolford. Hold on, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to understand how it was calculated, the water usage going forward. So now that we're past the current drought situation, have lots of water right now. I know my wife and I had a very wonderful garden and pretty much cut back water. We were using 3 CCFs every billing period, and that went down drastically. And I compared the billing rate or the usage rate from 2020, before the drought hit, to the proposed increases. And just in the first year, the increase in billing will go up 58% if I return to the same water usage level. So I would like to understand the formula for assuming that there will be a major reduction in water usage. I would think it is going to go up, and I really don't know how much. And I know you have the records and you probably figured that out. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no further speakers.
Great. All right, we'll move on to item number 4 on the agenda, human resources. Vicki.
Are you driving the? No, no, I can do it. Okay, I'll set. Good morning. Oh, okay. That I should do that.
Caroline, I got my comment in.
I have it.
I wasn't planning to do anything, but they came up with the
Thanks, Terry. Appreciate it. All right, thank you for your patience.
All good.
Just actually trying to adapt to the in-person environment, you know, from going from Zoom. So thank you. I am Vicki Garay, Human Resources Manager for Marin Water, and here to provide an update on some of the goals that we shared with you at the February retreat. So I will be talking about enhancements in our recruitment program, onboarding, our new employee evaluation program, diversity, equity, inclusion, our initiative on that, and employee engagement. Thank you. With respect to our recruiting program, our goal is to provide greater visibility on the internet and with the local community. We want to make people aware of opportunities, career opportunities in the water industry, and specifically with Marin Water. So we want to get a wider reach out there overall, but and within the local community. So, and we also hope that our wider reach will result in increased diversity in our applicant pool. And we want to make a connection with passive job seekers. So I shared with you that we recently started working with a LinkedIn recruiter account. That was a pilot program, and that program's going very well. We plan to continue using that program. And as you can see, we had 427 views on this newly posted financial management analyst position. So it gives us that broader reach. Like I mentioned in the retreat, it helps us to connect with passive job seekers. So job seekers, when we post jobs, they'll get a direct message into their email box through, if they have a LinkedIn account that has a profile that matches what we're looking for. And so they will get that direct message. Also, the program allows for us, it gives us recommendations, so recommended matches. So if we go on to the recruiter account, we can see that we're posting a job for an engineer. We can see engineer profiles of engineers at similarly situated agencies similar to Marin Water. So, and we're able to send them a message and a link to our job posting and let them know that we have this opportunity available here at Marin Water. So it's been very effective. And then also we want to increase our visibility in the community, in the local community. And we've recently sent job announcements to a few of our community-based agencies in the local area. And we're going to be following up with phone calls just to make sure they got our postings. And we want to let their stakeholders know that we have opportunities here at the Water District. So we really want to build on those relationships. And so I mentioned at the retreat that we were planning to launch our new recruitment platform. We've launched that. Our target date was March, and that's up and going. So this is our new landing page for recruitment opportunities. Now this page offers, it has more outreach than our previous recruitment page. It reaches a larger audience of job seekers. So that's our new page. And with this program, we're able to, on the back end of this program, not just post jobs, but we're able to see how well our job postings are going, what's the effectiveness of our advertising campaign. So we can see hits to our various jobs. So for example, again, the financial management analyst, I'll use as an example, recently posted has close to 700 hits and is trending high. So, and that tells us, but if we had a low number of hits, then we probably need to start rethinking our advertising campaign. So it's helpful to have those metrics. And then the program also offers other modern features, like we're able to text message candidates right now. So recently we sent emails to a candidate, they were going into the spam box. And we were trying to find out why isn't this person reaching out to us? I mean, I'm following up, but we can now send text messages. People tend to rely on that a little bit more. So we can send text messages through our program. And then when a person is hired, their information that they enter into the system will automatically go to our onboarding system, that we're going to be setting up. And this is what that would look like. So once a person is hired, they will link to our onboarding page, and it will look something like this. It'll have the Marin Water and a welcome message and things like that. We're set to do this in February, but I think we're going to get this done well before February. But the page offers electronic forms, checklists for new hires, and then also after the person is hired, and also self-service, the employees can see all of our policies. And after the person is hired, it will ping the manager to do a check-in, a 30-day and a 120-day check-in. But our employees currently receive a 3-month, a 6-month, and a 12-month performance evaluation for all new hires. So, but this is an addition to that. Okay. So I also shared with you our performance evaluation program. This is a big change to the previous program, and we provided training to everyone. And there's still some bugs in the program. And most of those bugs are related to our customized evaluation document. So we're still making adjustments to that, and we hope to get that fixed very soon. But just in terms of context, our old program was a Word document, and there was one template for every employee. So for example, our customer service manager would have the same performance evaluation as a distribution systems operator. And those, positions are very different. And then with the program, managers and directors now have a dashboard. They can actually look at their entire organization to see that evaluations are being completed. If they're completed on time, they can look at trends in terms of competencies and where they may be trending high or low among their teams in terms of specific competencies, and that you can use that information for training opportunities. And in HR, we can also see those, get those metrics, and we can also use that information for staff development programs. The system does have 360 review capability. And I've looked at some other off-the-shelf products just because we weren't really happy with the 360 component of this evaluation program. So far, it looks like this current program will probably be better than the alternatives, but I'm going to keep looking to see, just to make sure that we have the best thing going for that. So that's our performance evaluations, but also to support employees in better performance, not just the tool of getting the evaluations done, but better performance and better employee engagement. Our goal is to create a district-wide training for all of our staff, provide meaningful and sustained diversity and equity inclusion efforts, and develop a communications protocol. So we want to enhance our onboarding program beyond the new hire orientation to include, just a thoughtful process when a person is hired, that they're being supported from day one all the way through the first year of employment and continuing on, of course. But we want our onboarding to be a 1-year-long program, not just new hire orientation. We want to continue our core leadership training and continue, and the person, we hope to hire a new HR person, and that person will lead these efforts, but we'll continue to work with senior leadership and the department managers in determining technical needs of staff for specific job classifications in various work units, and support for all staff, for new hire to retirement and everything in between. So we're just want to make ourselves a learning organization so we can increase knowledge, pass knowledge on, and this will help us with our succession planning. And then with respect to engagement, we do plan to launch another survey in December. And we are developing a communications protocol. So right now, communication is a major component of employee engagement. So we really want to focus on that. And so right now we're trying to recruit for a team of employees within the departments. The managers are working on that to help establish a protocol, and recognizing that protocol in one department is going to be different in another department. For example, if you have a 24-hour operation, your communication protocol is going to probably look a little different. So in a 24-hour operation. So, and then just an update on, and finally, an update on our diversity and equity inclusion efforts. Our senior leadership team participated in a training provided by a Bay Area provider, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it will be rolled out to all staff. And the training will include instructor-led online and in-person training on diversity, equity, and inclusion foundations, unraveling equity, diversity uncovered will be the topics. And we'll have a 3-hour training. Some trainings will be in person, some will be online, but they will all be instructor-led. And before we roll out that program, we're actually recruiting staff to serve on a stakeholder group, and that stakeholder group they'll be considered for the stakeholder group, and the stakeholder group will help with some logistics and training focus, and kind of thinking about what we need here at the district and giving input to the program before the trainer rolls out the training program. So, and then our next steps, we'll just continue the work of HR, and that includes the goals and that were listed here and additional goals. And we'll have periodic updates at the Finance and Administration Committee meeting. And that concludes my report.
Great. Thank you, Vicky. Any comments? Matt in the room? All good?
Thank you.
Larry, Monty, any comments?
No, thank you.
Nope, all good. Thank you.
I want to, Vicky, thank you for coming and joining and being a regular part of our F&A meetings. It's super helpful for me. And I think everybody, as we come out of the pandemic, I think it's easy to forget how difficult those times were. And, you know, we just all went through a society trauma.
Yes.
And all workplaces suffered from it. And it's different now. We're back, you know, somewhat in the office and somewhat not. It's a different world than it was. And satisfaction is measured in different ways. And I think now is an opportunity for us to restart, right? And really look forward as much. You know, there are issues in the past, there always are, but now we can kind of kick it in again and say, we're in a new world. How are we going to go about this? How are we going to go about recruiting the best possible people in the world to work for this agency and to make sure they're happy and productive and thrilled to be here. In the companies that I've worked with, there's a very important distinction between recruiting and HR, so to speak. And the heads of recruiting, I know at Microsoft, you know, the head of recruiting reported straight to Bill Gates, and it was the same at Oracle and other major companies. And it all the more shows the importance of the effort that you and we are about to undertake and the dozens of people that we are about to hire that will transform this agency for a long time to come. And so the more thoughtful we approach our recruiting efforts, the best possible people we hire, this is a really exciting time for Marin Water. I think that you might be able to work with Adrian on other metrics besides just hits. I think we can look at, you know, click through and engagement and other ways that we can use our marketing efforts and multimedia efforts to recruit folks. There's a lot of very thoughtful, you know, technical expertise in recruiting. I'm glad we're using LinkedIn and other of those kinds of services. So that's extremely important. I think I am all even more encouraged by your focus on diversity and inclusion. Not just metrics, but just an attitude at the agency on how we think about who we hire, how we treat ourselves, and let's continue to report on it. Let's continue to see how we can do better. So thank you for that energy. And that training, I think, will be critical, but it's across the board. It does come into the interviewing process. So I'm sure all of us would be more than happy to help recruit and interview, or, you know, whatever you want. We'll get the word out. Last quick note on the 360 reviews that you mentioned. I know the software package is new that we're using internally, and there's some enhancements and kinks to work out, and you're working on that. But, you know, in talking with you and Ben and others, I think there's a recognition the importance of having 360 reviews, that we want to have it up and down the organization for all managers. And the idea here is to see how we can all do better. It's not to see what we're doing wrong. It's just how we can support each other and how we can get the best possible people the support that they have. So those are all my comments, but thank you very much for joining us. Do we have any public comment?
There are none.
Great.
All right.
Maybe one. Yep. One comment. Yep.
Yeah, come over here to the lectern, please. Thanks.
Something that I am hoping we can see from the district is something like a recruitment policy, which we currently don't have, just to make sure that we have a established process for how we do recruitments, including making sure we have, for example, an upcoming position. If it's technical, we have subject matter experts on the panels to make sure we get the best qualified candidate. If we don't have that level of expertise in-house. So that's something I think is very important for this sort of new frontier of improving our recruitment. process. If we could get that, it would help make recruitments consistent, standardized, and make sure we get the best possible new employees and new hires here. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no further speakers.
Okay, with that, we will adjourn our meeting. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you.